Your knees crack as they touch the cold earth, and the chill creeps up your legs like a judgment. You clasp your hands more out of habit than hope. Because tonight, like every night, you must pray. Not because you're particularly devout. Not because you feel spiritually enlightened by a day spent wrestling barley in blisters. But because not praying might get you killed. You see, in 1325, God is not just your creator. He is your landlord, your doctor, your weather app, and your police force. And he is always watching. So is the church. And if you forget your prayers too many nights in a row, well, let's just say people start whispering. Accusations are like fleas here, everywhere, and easy to catch. So you mutter the words passed down to you. The Latin ones you don't understand. The English ones that sound more like apologies than praise. You ask for health, even though you're already coughing. You ask for a good harvest, even though the fields are a swamp of mud and mushrooms. You ask for protection from spirits, witches, and that creepy goat that stared at you all afternoon. You end with the sign of the cross, crooked, rushed, and collapse back into bed like a wounded knight. But sleep does not come easily. Because medieval religion isn't a comforting blanket, it is often portrayed as in stained glass windows and choral hymns. It is a haunted house of rules and consequences. You don't just fear hell. You fear everything. You fear purgatory, a place of fire and boredom where souls wait centuries for salvation. You fear the devil, who might be lurking in that coughing pig or that neighbor who sneezed during Mass. You fear sin, which can be anything from working on a saint's feast day to accidentally injuring yourself. You even fear dreams. Because sometimes dreams are messages. And sometimes they are traps. Last week, your cousin dreamt of a black dog with red eyes. The next day, he slipped on a pile of dung, broke his leg, and had to have it sawed off with a rusted knife and zero anesthetic. Coincidence? No one thinks so. Everyone says the dog was the devil. You wonder what it means that you dreamed of cheese last night. You hope it just means you're hungry. Outside, the wind howls through the cracks in the walls. The fire coughs in the hearth, low and smoky. You pull the blanket, if you can call it that, up to your chin. It smells like goat. Everything does. You close your eyes. You hear a rat scurry across the floor. You whisper one more prayer, this time directly to Saint Benigas, who, for some reason, is said to protect against skin diseases. You have 4. Might as well give him a shot. Your last thought before sleep is not about love, or peace, or even survival. It's a simple, pleading thought. Please don't let the thatch collapse tonight. Then finally, mercifully, sleep takes you. Sleep in the medieval world isn't peace. It's postponement. And tonight, as you lie there on your straw mattress, which, to be fair, is mostly straw, but also home to at least 6-legged mysteries and 1 angry beetle, sleep comes slow and shallow. You don't have dreams so much as flickers of consciousness. Images of plows, goats, screaming, and that one time your cousin tried to bake without taking the stones out of the grain. He's still missing 2 teeth. But just as you begin to slip into a rare stretch of uninterrupted unconsciousness, you're pulled violently back by a noise. A sound like someone dragging a bag of bones over the roof. You freeze. Your wife stirs, mutters something about the Virgin Mary, and turns over. You wait. It happens again. Scrape. Scuttle. Thud. Could be the cat. Could be a thief. Could be something worse. Because night is when the boundaries get thin. You've been told stories since you were a child. Everyone has. Don't wander outside after dark. Don't whistle past the graveyard. Don't leave milk out uncovered, not unless you want fairies to steal your baby or give your cow a curse that makes it lactate blood. And tonight? Tonight feels like one of those nights. You sit up slowly, spine protesting with every vertebra. You grab the fire poker, a heavy, soot-stained piece of iron that serves double duty as your only weapon, and edge toward the door. You open it just a crack. Nothing. Just the mist curling low over the fields. Just the moon, hanging pale and distant, like a cold coin flicked across the sky. Just silence. And then, from the woods beyond the path, a sound. Not animal. Not human. Something in between. A dry, rasping moan. You slam the door shut, bolt it with a wooden bar the width of your forearm, and back away. No one talks about what's out there. Not directly. But everyone knows. Even the church, with its sermons and sacraments, has no answer for the things that howl on moonless nights, or the children that vanish without a trace, or the corpse that twitched 3 days after burial. The priests say it's demons. The old ones, the ones with clouded eyes and long memories, say it's older than that. You say nothing, because silence, in this case, might actually protect you. You return to bed, heart racing like a war drum. Sleep is now impossible. You lie awake, staring at the sagging thatch above, counting each slow leak from the ceiling like drops from an hourglass. Tick, tick, tick. Your child whimpers beside you. You reach out and pat their head. Their skin is hot. You don't say anything. You don't need to. You know what fever means. You whisper another prayer. This one is shorter, more desperate. And then, finally, your body does what it must. It collapses. You sleep. Not because it's safe, but because there's nothing else to do. Morning returns not with the gentle kiss of sunlight, but with the sharp reality of another day you weren't entirely sure you'd reach. Your body wakes before your mind does. Because in the medieval world, fatigue isn't something that goes away with rest. It simply settles deeper, like salt in a river, layering into your bones. Your eyes creak open to gray light filtering through holes in the wall, not intentional windows, just gaps no one's bothered to patch. The wind whistles through them, carrying with it the unmistakable scent of moist pig and distant mildew. You stretch, or try to, but your shoulder doesn't respond properly. You'll ignore that. You always do. Your child is curled beside you, skin still flushed. They're burning up, and in this time, you already know, there is no plan. There is no hospital. There is no recovery. There is only waiting, and praying, and occasionally burying. But not yet. Because right now, there are chores to be done. You force yourself up and immediately feel the rush of cold stabbing your bare legs like tiny knives. Your leggings are still wet from yesterday. There is no dry pair. You put them on anyway. You shuffle outside into a yard that is mostly mud, partly animal droppings, and entirely demoralizing. And now comes the second round of your daily humiliation, the animals. They do not love you. You are not Snow White. You are at best tolerated. The chickens cluck angrily at your presence, suspicious that you've returned without grain. You open the coop and nearly get pecked in the eye. The pig is louder today, more restless. You eye it warily. Last month, old Tom's pig went wild and took out his knee. The priest said it was punishment from missing Massachusetts. You think it was just a pig being a pig. You pitch hay. You refilled the troughs. You try to clean the goat pen but end up just relocating filth from one corner to another. And then, you look to the sky. The wind has shifted. The clouds are darker, lower, and the air has that telltale bite. Winter is coming, and you are not ready. No one is. The harvest was thin this year. The rains came late. The ground gave more rocks than wheat. And the stores, such as they are, already feel too light. You walk to the shed. You open the creaking door. And you stare at the future. A single stack of turnips. 3 sacks of oats. Half a wheel of cheese with a suspicious grey fuzz. This has to last you 4 months. You feel your stomach turn, and not just from hunger. Because you know what this means. Your ration, of course. Water down the pottage. Stretch every scrap. Pretend mold is flavor. And still, it won't be enough. It never is. The older villagers, the ones who've made it through more winters than they care to count, say it without saying it. Not all of you will see spring. You close the shed door slowly. And you tell no one. Because everyone already knows. Winter is not coming. It's here. It crept in one night like a thief, stealing the last of the warmth from the air, snapping the ground beneath your boots into frozen shards, and leaving behind a kind of silence that presses against your ears. And just like that, your world shrinks. The fields are done. The mud has turned to ice. The chickens are laying less. The pig is quieter, which is worrying. Quiet pigs mean either death or plodding. You spend your days mostly inside now, huddled near the hearth with your family and the ghosts of your poor dietary choices. The pottage? Now thinner. The bread? Now harder. The cheese? Evolving into something with moral objections to being consumed. Your body is shrinking. You've lost weight. So has everyone. Even the baby looks at you with sunken eyes and the expression of someone who knows they're part of a dwindling ration strategy. And then comes the cough. At first, it's just your wife. She coughs once. Then again. Then 3 more times in rapid succession. You both pretend not to notice. You stoke the fire. The fire is small. Your wood pile is laughable. Last week, you burned the broken stool. Yesterday, you considered the shed door. You'll burn anything now, except the pig, for now. You keep praying. You don't know if God hears you. But the village priest visits every few days, wrapped in more layers than any human should be allowed. He smells of incense and something fermented. His sermons are short during winter. Even hellfire needs warming up. And he brings news. So-and-so's baby died. Old widow Agnes passed in her sleep. The baker's boy went mad, ran into the woods, never came back. You nod solemnly. You're expected to. And you give him a potato. It's your last one. But if you don't, you fear next week he'll mention your name from the pulpit, and no one wants to be publicly accused of spiritual stinginess. That night, you sit by the fire and pick at your dinner. It's just broth. No solids. Your wife coughs again. Harder. There's blood on her lip now. She wipes it away like it's nothing. You say nothing. Because what can you say? The village healer has no answers. Agnes came by yesterday with another powder. This one was blessed. She mumbled a prayer over it, spat on it, and said to mix it with goat urine. You nodded. Said thank you. Then threw it in the fire the second she left. The baby won't stop crying. It's not hunger. You know that cry. This one is different. It's colder. Ragged. Like they're not crying for food, just for comfort. For warmth. For any sign that the world will not end in frost and silence. You want to cry too, but you don't. There are no tears in winter, only frostbite. And still, you lie down beside your family. You pull the thin blanket over all of you like a shroud, and you whisper the same words you say every night. Just one more day. Just one more. You live in a world of roles. Fixed, inescapable, brutally simple. You are a medieval farmer. That is all you will ever be. But within that narrow little box is a cruel hierarchy, a maze of who eats first, who speaks second, and who gets to die quietly rather than publicly. Let's start with your class. You are a peasant. Not in the fun, ironic, cottagecore kind of way. In the legally tied to the land, taxed into oblivion, probably can't read your own name kind of way. You are a villain, which means you don't own your land, your labor, or technically your life. All of that belongs to your local lord. He lives in the manor house. You've seen it. It's only slightly less damp than your hut, but he has real glass and one window and a roof that doesn't whistle when the wind blows. He collects the portion of everything you grow, and in return, he sometimes protects you from bandits, wolves, or worse, tax collectors from the next lord over. Sometimes. You bow when he rides by on his horse. You don't make eye contact. You say, "My lord," even if he once tripped over your child and called her vermin. Because that's the structure. Because that's survival. Then there's the gender question. If you think it's hard being you, try being your wife. She wakes before you, works beside you, eats after you. She gave birth to 5 children. 2 survived. That's a good record. She is responsible for food, fire, children, mending, hauling water, raising chickens, spinning wool, helping in the field, preparing holy days, and keeping the peace with your mother-in-law, who is somehow still alive and deeply suspicious of joy. And when she gets sick, she still does all of that. Because she has no choice. She has no rights. She can't own land. Can't inherit anything unless every male relative dies in a hilarious and unlikely order. If you die first, she gets the privilege of marrying whoever the Lord picks. Usually an older man with a strong back and a loose understanding of personal hygiene. And then there are the others. The outcasts. The lepers kept far beyond the village. The beggars who aren't allowed inside the church. The wise women who are praised for curing ailments right up until someone gets spooked and decides they're a witch. You know the roles. You don't question them. Because questioning leads to punishment. And punishment, well, let's just say it's public. And it's never brief. Stocks, whippings, branding, the occasional ear removal, nothing says. Respect the social order, like being nailed to a piece of wood for stealing a crust of bread. You've seen it happen. You try not to stare, but everyone does. It's the medieval version of evening entertainment. And deep down, you feel a terrible relief. Because this time, it wasn't you. But next time? Who knows? So you keep your head down. You say your prayers. You pretend the sores on your leg aren't getting worse. Because in a world built on roles, you don't get to choose who you are. You only get to survive being it. Suspicion lives here. It seeps between the cracks in the thatch, settles in the corners of the church, grows like mold under the surface of every conversation. Because when you live in a village of 67 souls, everyone knows everyone else. And everyone knows just enough to be dangerous. It starts small. Someone's cow stops giving milk. A child gets sick. The weather turns too fast. Hail in spring, drought in fall. You know, rational things that have rational explanations. Except no one here has access to those. So instead, they look for blame. And that blame always finds the same kind of person. The old. The different. The widowed. The unlucky. The woman who talks to herself. The man who limps and smells like ash. The girl born under a blood moon with red hair and too many questions. They're all suspicious. And in the medieval mind, suspicion is the first step to accusation. You remember the last time it happened. It was 2 years ago. The miller's daughter, shy, sweet, maybe too quiet. A bird died in her hand once. just fell from the sky. Everyone saw it. The following week, her neighbor's baby took ill. That was enough. They whispered. Then they shouted. They came for her one morning, not with torches, but with something worse, certainty. The priest was consulted. The Lord Steward nodded. No one wanted blood, but everyone wanted safety. She was brought to the river. They tied her to a chair and threw her in. If she floated, she was a witch and would be burned. If she sank, she was innocent. She sank. She was innocent. You watched her mother scream until her voice broke. And then, everyone went home and tried not to think about it. Because they had to believe it was necessary. Because admitting it wasn't, that's unbearable. So the village heals by forgetting. You walk past the river every day. You don't look at it. But sometimes at night you hear it. And now, another whisper begins. Your neighbor's wife claims her bread won't rise. Says your daughter looked at her funny. You try to laugh it off. You offer her a chicken egg to smooth things over. But you know what this is. You've seen it start like this before. So you keep your daughter close. You pray harder. You nod more enthusiastically at Mass. You act normal. You act devout. Because in a place this small, your survival depends on your ability to blend in, agree, and never, ever stand out. Death isn't an interruption here. It's not a twist in the story. It is the story. From the moment you're born, slick, screaming, and probably underweight, death is beside you. Sometimes in the corner of the room. Sometimes in the breath of someone you love. Sometimes in your bread. And because it's always near, no one is surprised by it. They're sad. Of course. But not surprised. Yesterday, the Thatcher's son died. He was 3. Fell into the fire when his mother turned her back to slap his older brother for swearing at a goose. No one blamed her. Not really. They all just nodded and murmured things like, God's will, and saints keep him. The next day, his little body was wrapped in linen and laid in the cold earth just beyond the churchyard. The priest said a few words. He didn't remember the boy's name. No one corrected him. You attended. You didn't want to. But you go, because when you die, and you will, you want people to come stand over your pit too. It's a courtesy, really. The grave was shallow. The ground's frozen now. The men had to hack through it with shovels like they were trying to bury a secret in stone. They managed though. They always do. The smell of freshly turned earth is different in winter, sharper, less forgiving. The child was buried next to his sister. She died last spring. Fever. Everyone says it wasn't the plague. But everyone is lying. Because it was the plague. They just don't want to say it. To say it is to summon it. And plague isn't just a disease here. It's a reckoning. It doesn't move politely. It doesn't knock first. One day, everything is normal. You're feeding your pig, insulting your neighbor's cabbage, and the next, black boils, bloody coughs. Whole families gone in 3 days. When the plague came to your village last time, it took 23 people. You remember the cuts, the piles of bodies, the sudden, horrifying quiet. There were no real burials by the end. Just trenches. You helped dig one. You never talk about it. You still remember the sound a body makes when it falls onto other bodies. It's not loud. Just final. Now, whenever someone sneezes, everyone flinches. The priest burns more incense. The healer boils more garlic. People stop shaking hands, stop kissing cheeks, stop sharing spoons. They still die. But slower. Quieter. You've accepted your fate. You'll die here. Not of old age. No one does. maybe infection, maybe hunger, maybe some rash that spreads too far before someone notices. And when it happens, you hope two things: that someone prays over your body, and that the dog doesn't eat you up too soon. It's the end of the day. Truly, finally, the end. Not just you finish your chores, end, but the kind of end where your body is no longer making requests. It's issuing ultimatums. Your knees scream. Your hands are raw. Your back, well, it's somewhere between locked and broken. And your soul? Your soul is tired. You're sitting by the fire, what's left of it. The embers glow faintly, like the last eye open in a dying man. You poke it with a stick. It flares, then settles. Your wife is asleep. One child whimpers. One mutters nonsense. The baby, mercifully, is quiet. Outside, the wind howls like a lonely god. You stare into the coals, and for a moment, you imagine something else. You picture light that isn't fire. You picture warmth that doesn't depend on a tree dying. You picture food, real food. Clean, steaming, rich with flavor and zero visible rats. You picture a world where your children don't cough in their sleep, where water comes from a pipe, where clothing is soft, dry, and doesn't double as a torture device. You try to imagine a life without fleas, but your brain refuses. That one's too far. You close your eyes, and in the quiet, you think about what you've lived through today. You woke on a bed of straw, dressed in the damp clothes of a corpse, defecated behind a shack with a goose staring you down, worked a cursed field under a sky that does not care if you succeed or fail, ate porridge that insulted your mouth, feared demons, bartered with superstition, prayed for survival, buried someone else's child, and crawled to bed knowing it could all happen again, or worse, tomorrow. You lived. That's what counts. You survived one more day. And in this time, in this world, that is the greatest accomplishment possible. Still want to romanticize the Middle Ages? Still dream of a simpler life? Still think you'd thrive in the past? Let me remind you. You didn't even get to brush your teeth, because toothbrushes haven't been invented yet, and your one molar left is wobbly. You breathe in one last puff of smoky, pig-flavored air. Then, finally, you let yourself go. Sleep wraps its cold arms around you, not as a comfort, but as a pause button. There is no peace. Just silence. Just darkness. And tomorrow? Tomorrow you do it again. Because you have no choice. But tonight you're back in your warm bed. Back in the real world. Maybe you're lying there with your phone still glowing, earbuds still in, blankets tucked up to your chin, the hum of a refrigerator or the soft purr of central heating buzzing gently in the background. Maybe you forgot just how lucky you are. That's okay. We all do. But maybe, just for tonight, you whisper a quiet thank you to the modern world. Thank you for the plumbing, the penicillin, the pillows, the people who figured out lice shampoo. Thank you for being born in a time where bedtime doesn't include an exorcism or a goat fight. You made it. To now. To here. To comfort. To safety. Sleep well. And don't worry. The rats stayed in the past. Probably. If this journey made you smile, or shudder, or maybe made you a little more grateful for your hot shower and soft socks, go ahead and give this video a like. If you enjoyed these sleepy little walks through the worst parts of history, consider subscribing. There's always another awful time period waiting just around the corner. And if you want to help this strange little corner of YouTube grow, share it with someone who can't sleep, or someone who still thinks they were born in the wrong century. Leave a comment and tell me, what part of this miserable medieval day stuck with you the most? Or maybe just tell me where you're listening from, and what time it is where you are. Because no matter where you are, whatever your bed, your night, your version of now, we're sharing this little moment together. Thanks for being here. And sleep well. Tonight, we're taking a journey backward through time. But not to the glorious tournaments, or the candlelit feasts. No, not to the castles or the heroic knights with shining armor. No dragons, no princesses. You're not even allowed within sniffing distance of a castle, honestly. Instead, you'll wake up surrounded by something far more humbling. Something far more itchy. And let's be honest, something far more accurate. Because tonight, you are not a king, nor a noble, nor even a disgraced squire with a drinking problem. You are a farmer. A medieval farmer. And your job, your one and only role, is to survive the next 24 hours without dying of starvation, infection, or pure exhaustion. Don't worry, you won't succeed. But before that moment comes, before your body gives out or your skin sloughs off from an untreated boil, I'll walk you gently through your day. A soft, slow spiral into discomfort, dirt, and the deeply underwhelming glory of pre-modern agriculture. Because the truth is, you wouldn't last a day. Not with your soft hands. Not with your ideas about breakfast. Not with your basic human desire for a toilet with a door. This isn't a Disney medieval. This isn't even a gritty Netflix medieval. This is the "please don't let that rat bite me again" medieval. Yes, the field is cursed but we still have to plant barley on it medieval. My shoes are made of pig's skin and regret medieval. You wake up cold. You go to bed hungry. In between, you're ankle deep in mud and things that wish they were mud. And that's on a good day. But don't worry, we're not here to mock you. We're here to tuck you in. So let the world around you go quiet. Dim your lights, pull the blanket up under your chin, and maybe, just maybe, don't think too hard about lice. Close your eyes if you like. Or keep them open. This isn't a test. You've already failed it simply by being born centuries too late to know how to milk a goat without crying. Let the gentle scratch of hay poke at your imagination. Let the soft stink of composted reality seep into your dreams. Let yourself drift backward farther until the soft hum of electricity fades and the buzzing of flies takes its place. Congratulations. You've just woken up in the year 1325. You are 30 years old, which means you are an elder in your village. And you are about to begin the longest day of your very short life. If you find yourself smiling, chuckling, or shivering slightly with second-hand plague, maybe give this video a like. Subscribe if you enjoy suffering in historical clarity. Comment if you've ever complained about your Wi-Fi, just so you can reflect on your sins later. Before we dive into today's story, I want to ask you something. Where are you listening from? And what time is it where you are right now? Because I know that you, me, and everyone else tuned into this video, we all share the same little habit, even if we're scattered across the world, far from one another. There is no rooster. That's a common misunderstanding. You think you're going to be gently stirred from your slumber by the proud crow of a chicken perched romantically on your windowsill. No. Instead, you wake up because something is crawling on your face. It might be a flea. It might be a rat. It might be a child. You genuinely don't know, because it's still dark, and your eyes are sealed with the combination of sleep crust and soot. You live in what generously might be described as a cottage, but is, by every modern standard, a damp wooden box stuffed with humans and air that smells like cabbage and feet. The roof leaks. The floor is mud. And yes, of course, the animals sleep inside with you. Why wouldn't they? They're warmer than you are, and you can't afford to lose another piglet to the cold night air. Or wolves. Or witches. Or whichever menace is trending this week. You push yourself up from your bedding, Bed would be too kind a word. It's straw. Straw with a dash of lice, a generous sprinkle of sweat, and the unmistakable tang of mildew. Your back is already sore. You haven't even started working yet. You try to stretch, but you're immediately met with resistance. Your wife is on one side of you, snoring with the violent intensity of someone who's birthed 8 children in 10 years. 2 of those children are still latched onto her even in sleep. Your eldest son, age 7, is wedged into your armpit. He has a cough. He's had that cough for a year now. No one knows what it is. It just is. Your second son is by your feet, or possibly under them. You swing your legs out of bed, careful not to crush the family chicken. You miss, and your foot lands directly in a pile of something that is not straw. Congratulations. You're awake. Outside, it's still dark, but your internal panic clock is well tuned. If you don't start moving now, you won't beat the other villagers to the communal oven. And if you don't bake your coarse barley loaves early enough, you'll be stuck eating them raw. Again. You fumble for your clothes. They're on the floor. Technically. They might also be partially fused into the ground. You pick up your tunic. It's stiff with yesterday's sweat. Or was it the day before's? You gave up tracking the timeline of Grimes sometime last harvest season. You put it on anyway. You always do. It's not like you have another one. As you pull your wool leggings over your cracked feet, a rat runs across the floor. It might be the same one from your face earlier. You nod at it like an old enemy you've learned to live with. There's no point in screaming. It's his house too. Now, fully clothed in what smells like betrayal and wet sheep, you reach for your shoes. They are, well, shoes might be a strong word. They're pig leather, laced up with string, and so thin you can feel each splinter of the wooden floor through them. You mutter a quiet curse to St. Crispin, patron of cobblers, and shove your feet in anyway. They hurt. Everything hurts. Welcome to morning in the 14th century. Outside, a light drizzle has started. Because of course it has. You open the door to your hut and are greeted with the smell of wet earth, manure, and wood smoke. It's a smell you've known all your life. A smell that's somewhere between comforting and despair. Your neighbors are also waking up. You hear a sneeze. A goat brays. You step out into the mud, which is to say, you step into the rest of your life. No breakfast yet. That comes later. Maybe. If you're lucky. If the oats haven't molded again. First, you need to check the fields. And they're not close. And you don't have a cart. And you're already tired. Still want to be a medieval farmer? Too late. You're knee-deep in 1325, and the barley doesn't plant itself. Before you go to the fields, there's one pressing matter you must attend to. You feel it building inside you, a low, twisting discomfort that reminds you, it's time to relieve yourself. There is no bathroom. Of course there isn't. There's no toilet. No outhouse. Not even a bush with a sign that says, "Please don't pee on me." What you do have is a designated corner. A sacred patch of dirt behind your hut. It's slightly shielded by a pile of firewood and an angry goose. And it's where you and your entire family have been doing your business for the past, well, forever. It's not private. It's not sanitary. But it is yours. You shuffle outside, trying to ignore the slurping sound your shoes make as they sink half an inch into the wet ground. The chill morning air slices through your tunic like it was made of loosely woven paper, which it kind of is, and your bladder is doing a desperate jig now. You glance around to make sure none of the neighbors are staring. They are. Of course they are. But everyone pretends not to see each other, because in this town, modesty is a luxury reserved for the dead. You squat. The goose hisses at you. You hiss back. The ground is muddy. The smell is biblical. You try to breathe through your mouth, which doesn't help, because now you can taste it. You finish your business with all the dignity of a raccoon in a dumpster fire. Now comes the fun part, wiping. There's no toilet paper. There's not even a leaf. You grab a piece of moss from the firewood pile. It's stiff, a little crunchy, and you don't want to think about how many other behinds it's already met. One swipe. Regret. Two swipes. Eternal regret. You do your best, then throw the used moss into a pit dug hastily last season, and now overflowing with shame. Back in your hut, you reach for a clay jug filled with water to rinse your hands. The water is cloudy. There might be something alive in it. You rinse anyway. You've given up hope. No soap. There's lye, but that's for laundry, and also burns your skin off. You settle for a quick shake of the hands and a wipe on your tunic. Your breakfast fingers are now officially contaminated. And speaking of breakfast, it's time. You shuffle over to the hearth. A fire is sputtering weakly, thanks to last night's damp wood. Your wife is kneeling beside it, stirring something in a pot. It smells grey. Pottage, she says, as if that's a gift. It's made from oats, onions, yesterday's cabbage, and something she won't name but insists is edible. You nod. You're too hungry to argue. You dip a piece of coarse black bread into the sludge and chew. The bread is hard enough to wound someone if thrown. You suspect it's harboring mold, but in this village, mold is just extra seasoning. You try to swallow. You almost succeed. This is your first meal of the day. It's also your best one. And now, with a belly full of moist cardboard and regret, it's time to walk to the fields. The sun is rising, a dim, grey blob behind the clouds. Your day has only just begun. You trudge down the narrow dirt path toward the fields, if you can call it a path. It's really more of a suggestion. Your shoes suck into the mud with each step. And every time you lift a foot, there's a little moment of panic where you wonder if this is the one where your soul finally gives up and stays behind forever. It's chilly this morning, the kind of cold that sneaks in through your collar and settles behind your shoulder blades. There is no coat. Your tunic is all you have, a woolen embrace that's simultaneously itchy and damp. The fields are about a quarter mile from your hut. That might not sound far, but that's because you've never walked it at sunrise after squatting in the mud and eating cabbage soup that might double as medieval laxative. As you reach your plot of land, you're being generous, since it technically belongs to the local lord who collects taxes with the same glee a cat uses to knock cups off a shelf. You sigh. This isn't a field. This is a swamp with delusions of grandeur. It's barley season, and you will be here for the next 10 to 12 hours, stabbing the earth with a wooden stick and praying to whichever saint specializes in grain growth. You start to dig. The soil is clumped and uncooperative. You mutter something impolite about the quality of last year's manure. Your hands already ache. The muscles in your back start humming like a badly tuned harp. You've been working for 6 minutes. Behind you, your neighbor Alan grunts. He's 60 years old. Or 35. No one knows. His face looks like it was carved from beef jerky. Good mud today, he croaks, spitting something into the wind that immediately lands on his own boot. You nod. Blessed be the mud, you say. Not because you mean it, but because sarcasm hasn't been invented yet, and you don't have the energy to invent it now. The sun climbs higher, which means it gets warmer, but not in a nice way. In the kind of way where your sweat mixes with wool, which mixes with hate particles still stuck in your shirt from last week, which creates a kind of personal ecosystem beneath your tunic. You scratch. Constantly. Your body is a mobile itch farm. The fleas are thriving. Thriving. You spend most of the morning alternating between hoeing, scratching, and wondering if it would be easier to just walk into the forest and let the wolves end it all. By midday, your legs are trembling. You sit on a rock to rest. The rock is damp. You don't care. Your lunch is a piece of cheese so hard it could be used as a projectile weapon. You gnaw on it with all the joy of a condemned prisoner chewing his last meal through broken teeth. And actually, you do have broken teeth. Everyone does. Tooth care doesn't exist. Your gums have been bleeding for so long, it's just a part of your morning routine now. You sip water from a leather pouch. It's warm. It tastes like goat. You're not sure it isn't goat. Still, you drink it. Because thirst is more dangerous than flavor. And because, as you know all too well, the next village over had an outbreak of dysentery last month. You remember Alan casually mentioning that he buried 2 nephews in the same ditch to save time. You finish your cheese and return to stabbing the earth with your glorified stick. Because if you don't, there will be no harvest. And if there's no harvest, well, let's just say the wolves might not need to wait after all. As the afternoon creeps forward with all the grace of a limping donkey, the sun finally manages to break through the thick gray clouds, and instantly, you regret ever wishing for warmth. You are now sweating profusely, but not in the, "Ooh, I'm glowing" way. More like, "My entire body is weeping" kind of way. Your wool tunic, which this morning was damp and scratchy, has transformed into a personal sauna. A hot, itchy, and deeply unsanitary wool sack glued to your skin. Let's talk about what you're wearing. You don't have options. Fashion isn't a thing for you. You've got exactly one outfit. Possibly 2 if someone died recently and their clothes were redistributed, but you'd have to fight for those. Your undergarment is a rough linen shirt that hasn't seen clean water since your youngest child was born. It's stained, it's crusted in places that shouldn't be crusty, and it smells like every bad decision you've made in the past decade. Over that, you've got your wool tunic. It's thick. It's hot. It's handmade by your aunt who went blind halfway through sewing it. So one sleeve is longer than the other, and the neckline kind of points toward your shoulder like it's trying to escape. Your leggings are also wool. They were once a matching pair, but time, labor, and several unfortunate encounters with thorns have made them siblings at best. Cousins, really. Your belt is a rope. That's it. A rope. And your shoes, remember those? Pigskin misery sleeves? They are now soaked through with a combination of mud, sweat, and the vague essence of regret. Every step you take squelches like your foot is apologizing for existing. But it's not just the discomfort. It's what these clothes do to your body. The constant moisture and friction have created patches of skin so raw, you've started naming them. That spot behind your knee? That's Sir Blisters a lot. The red ring of mystery on your thigh? Probably St. Anthony's fire. Or just regular fire. You're not sure. Because there are no doctors. Only the village wise woman, who last week recommended tying a dead toad to your armpit to rebalance your humerus. You tried it. All it did was make you smell worse. Which, frankly, is impressive. Your body is a battlefield. And your clothes are the enemy. You scratch again, this time so hard you leave a mark. Doesn't matter. No one's looking. No one cares. Everyone else is too busy fighting their own personal wars against lice, mites, and mysterious rashes. And let's not forget the fleas. Oh, the fleas. They live in your straw bedding, in your clothes, in your hair. You've made peace with the fact that you are now a mobile flea ecosystem. At this point, you wouldn't be surprised if the fleas start paying rent and forming a union. You pause to wipe the sweat from your brow. It drips into your eyes. Stings. You blink. Stumble. And remember, you still have to walk home. Still have to feed the animals. Still have to figure out what's for dinner. And, just a little cherry on top, your wife mentioned this morning that your mother-in-law might visit tonight. She smells like boiled onions and has strong opinions about your work ethic. And she's right. You're failing. But in this world, everyone is. Your joints ache like you're 90 years old, which, in this time period, would make you a mythical creature. You're 30. But you feel like you've survived 3 wars, 2 floods, and a duel with a particularly vindictive plow. As you drag your weary, flea-bitten body back from the fields, your right knee begins to seize. It clicks ominously with every other step, the sound of early onset regret. By the time you reach your door, your lower back is screaming. You consider lying flat on the ground and simply becoming part of it. But then you remember, you're due for your monthly health check. Which is not what it sounds like. No stethoscopes. No charts. No helpful, cheerful person asking if you've been staying hydrated. Instead, you get Agnes. Agnes is the village healer. She smells of garlic, dirt, and something uncomfortably like formaldehyde, though no one knows what that is yet. Her hut is filled with bundles of drying herbs, chicken bones, and jars containing substances that defy logic. You walk in and sit on the stool. She eyes you like a disappointed guard. "What hurts?" she asks, poking your shoulder before you can answer. You open your mouth, but she's already lifting your tunic and squinting at the red, blistering patch of skin near your ribs. She hums ominously, which in healer speak means, "I have no idea, but I'm going to pretend this is normal." She nods, disappears into the back room, and returns with a small sack of powder. Ground frog bladder and dried nettle, mixed with goat milk. Drink before sleep. You blink. "Will it help?" "No," she says plainly. "But it'll keep the demons busy." You take the powder, because saying no to Agnes is a good way to end up with something cursed in your soup. Before you leave, she offers one more treatment, bloodletting. Of course, because the theory goes that your body is full of bad humors, bile, phlegm, black bile, and blood. And if something is wrong, it's because one of them is having a tantrum. The solution? Stab a vein and let the madness drip out. You decline politely. She shrugs, tosses a leech back into its jar, and tells you to come back if you start coughing blood. You're already coughing blood. But that's just a part of life now. You shuffle home. On the way, you pass your neighbor's hut. They buried their youngest last week. Fever. No one even pretends to know what caused it. Some say bad air. Others say she walked past the cat too quickly and absorbed its evil. Science in its medieval form. You step through your door, slump onto your straw bed, and feel something squirm beneath you. Probably a rat. You close your eyes anyway. Because even a bed full of parasites is better than standing. And besides, you still need to eat. ChatGPT to NOI. Dinner. The final ritual in your day of minor sufferings and major gastrointestinal risks. You sit at the low wooden table, or more accurately, a plank of splintered timber propped up by 2 uneven stumps. One end wobbles. You've tried to fix it with straw. It made it worse. Your wife stirs the pot at the hearth. It smells faintly of turnips, more strongly of onions, and overwhelmingly of, oh no. Tonight's meal is once again pottage. Because it's always pottage. It is the alpha and the omega of your culinary experience. A thick, grayish-brown slop made from whatever didn't rot today. Dried peas, a handful of barley, some onion, maybe a carrot if you're lucky. And occasionally, Very occasionally, the tragic meat of a chicken that gave up on life. You watch her ladle it into wooden bowls. Each one is cracked, stained, and has seen more winters than your second son. You grab your spoon, which is also your only spoon, and possibly your grandfather's only spoon, and brace yourself. The first bite is hot. Painfully hot. The kind of heat that burns your tongue and hides the fact that you just crunched something gritty. You hope it was sand. You suspect it was bone. There's no salt. Salt is expensive. Salt is something nobles have. You have regret. Your children slurp loudly beside you. Your eldest burps, scratches a rash, and goes back to chewing with the enthusiasm of a dog licking condensation off a rock. Your youngest refuses to eat unless you sing the turnip song, which is just you saying the word turnip over and over in slightly different tones. You do it anyway. Because dinner time is sacred. It is the one moment in your day when no one is holding a hoe, screaming at a goat, or bleeding from the shin. Even your wife smiles. Just a little. She's missing 3 teeth. The others are in open rebellion. But she's smiling, and for a moment, you almost forget that your feet are wet, and your spine is plotting your murder. Then your youngest throws up in her bowl. Right back into the pottage. You all freeze. Then someone shrugs, stirs it back in, and keeps eating. Because waste is a sin. And you've eaten worse. After dinner, you rinse the bowls with a splash of lukewarm well water. No soap. Just wishful thinking in a stiff piece of cloth that hasn't been truly cleaned since the Crusades. You step outside to dump the scraps for the pigs. One of them eyes you with suspicion. You eye it back. You both know it'll be soup soon. You just hope it's not rabid. Back inside, the fire is dying. You throw on a log, damp, because of course, and it smokes like it's auditioning for a fog machine. The hut fills with the rich aroma of wet ash and pig. You lay on your straw bed. The lice welcome you home. Your body creaks like a church door in a thunderstorm. You are tired. So tired. But the day's not quite over yet. Not until you pray. Because no matter how brutal the day, or how suspicious the stew, you must give thanks. You fold your hands, close your eyes, and whisper a prayer. Not for prosperity. Not for happiness. Just that the roof holds through the night. And that your cough is just a cough. You kneel beside your bed.